Sharia law in Britain. That's what the Archbishop of Canterbury wants.
Rowan Williams recognises that to many, Sharia conjures up images of brutal punishment from the state, as they have in France.
To recognise Sharia is to recognise a method of jurisprudence governed by revealed texts, rather than a single system.
The remarks made by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams, on the Sharia law on 8th of February 2008 fuelled the ongoing debate about Muslim identity and integration in British society. An issue that has been raised repeatedly is the question of compatibility between being British and being Muslim at the same time.
Being a Muslim is just a principle, it's a value that you keep with you, it's a faith that you have. And being British is just an identity that you accept while you live on this land, basically, because it's Great Britain.
I feel fully British and fully Muslim, you know, but at the same time, I've chosen to create my own British Muslim identity that's very particular. That doesn't mean it's exactly the same as every other British Muslim or the same as every other British person. So, I mean, I can see that, you know, some aspects of British social life or cultural life might not fit entirely with Islam, for example, drinking and that sort of thing. But, you know, these things aren't, I think, integral to Britishness, so I don't think it contradicts in any way.
Islam is not an identity. In my view, Islam is more of a set of values, a set of principles, a notion of belief, a kind of realm of spirituality that manifests itself in practical life.
If being Muslim refers to the acceptance of a set of values, what does it mean for a Muslim to be British?
Being British is to be, I guess, to be open-minded and tolerant.
Just to accept the law of the land, and that's pretty much it. So long as you can adhere to the code of the British people and you can respect their laws and views, that's it.
I think if you ask any British person on the street, they won't be able to give you an answer. I mean, you can't really sum up a whole country and its history and its culture and its achievements in a sentence.
To be British, you have to be really, have the monarchy at the centre of your life. The monarchy represents the very identity of the British nation in terms of its values, in terms of service, in terms of duty, and in terms of the relationship with Parliament and the people, there to serve the people. But if someone is willing to accept our values like that, who wasn't born in this country, and to identify with our history, and to celebrate it, and want to live with us in peace and in freedom, yes, it's possible for someone born outside the UK to be British.
Being a Muslim, being a very good Muslim, immediately means to me being a very good British citizen.
Yet, Muslims have repeatedly been accused of failing to integrate into British society.
I think there are places that are ghettoised, and I think those kind of areas are probably failing to integrate, and it's society's responsibility as a whole. We're not going to get integration if only one side is going to try and integrate.
If you look at all industries, if you look at, you know, education, if you look at banking, if you look at law, if you look at, you know, service sector, there are Muslims everywhere. You know, there are Muslims integrating.
We've been promoting and even sometimes campaigning for integration, but it's a problematic term. Many people have a very huge problem with the term integration. It gives rise to the feeling that to integrate, it means that you leave behind your cultural identity.
Particularly in some parts of the north of England, where I've been there, after the riots in 2001. And when I walked into one part of Oldham where the riot had occurred, Glodick, it was like walking into a Pakistani village. There were no white faces, no black faces, no Hindus, no Sikhs, no Asian Christians. They were all Pakistani Muslims. And people would turn to look at me, what's this white man doing here? Now clearly, when people congregate together like that and form their little ghettos, then really they aren't integrating into British life.
What would it take for Muslims to integrate into British society?
The ones that integrate are the ones who are in their education, doing work, not out there committing crimes at all, and that's pretty much it. That's what I believe.
I think how we distinguish an integrated British Muslim from a non-integrated British Muslim is one, for a start, who has made an effort to gain non-Muslim friends, particularly amongst the indigenous community. Someone who keeps the laws of Islam, but doesn't seem to think that the way to do that is to dress like an Arab did in the 7th century, Arabia.
If the integration of Muslims is not proceeding, what is impeding it? Is it religion, culture, or politics?
Islam has been part of Britain for hundreds of years, and contact with Muslims started, under Queen Elizabeth's reign. So I don't think there's anything to prevent Muslims living in Britain comfortably. In terms of integrating, I personally, it's a matter of opinion. Some people might take certain interpretations of Islam that make it difficult for them to integrate in British society, but that's not my opinion. I don't see anything in Islam that stops me from being a British Muslim.
There might be some interpretations of Islam which prevent integration, but there are challenging interpretations of Islam which may promote it. It depends on which interpretation you take. There are certain things which may be non-negotiable for both groups.
The very first principle of Islam is that Allah Almighty described the mission of the Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, was that we have sent you not but as a mercy for all mankind. So that is, in essence, draws the line, if you like, for exactly how Islam not only could but must reach out to all corners of the world. So in fact, if anything, that in itself, I see it as the most clear and illuminous example against the argument that Islam prevents engagement. If anything, Islam is not an isolationist religion. It's not a religion that calls upon its adherents to stay at home and stay away. If anything, we are called upon, we are obliged to reach out to our neighbours.
It is not unusual to hear Muslims complain that too much is being asked of them to prove their Britishness.
What actually often makes it difficult for Muslims to integrate is this constant demand on them to prove themselves, to prove that you belong in society, because it creates a mentality where you feel that you're not accepted and you don't feel comfortable, And it's, questioning Muslims' role and place in society actually is counterproductive in that sense, because they start to think, well, if we're not welcome here, why should we integrate?
You could find yourself isolated, not by all British people, but by some British people. And you might not be looked at as British, you might be looked at as a foreigner, even though you lived here all your life. But because you didn't go to a pub, because you didn't really mix with everything that British culture comes with, it's not all British culture, maybe the mainstream British culture.
I think that the Muslim community have been treated and have been addressed in unfair terms, but I still think that the community itself, the Muslim community, still has a role and responsibility to play in fulfilling its own terms.